Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Why Are We Like This, a Heartstopper podcast. I'm Ashley, she, her.
I'm Alyssa, she, they. And today we are back to talk about season 2 with some very special guests.
Hello, I'm David from A Proper Full On Gay Crisis, a Heartstopper Fan Podcast. He, him.
And I'm Kate, also from the same podcast, she, her. And it's lovely to be here.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. We are recording this episode jointly, and it'll be posted on both our accounts, so you can listen to it twice if you like.
Yeah.
You all might remember we did something very similar for season 1, so if you haven't listened to that episode, you should go listen to it, and also all of the other episodes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
we had such a blast recording this for season 1, so we were like, we have to do it again for season 2.
Mhm.
And
It
here we
feels like
are.
ages ago, doesn't it now?
I know.
does.
I have a very loose concept of time.
Yeah, I'm like, realistically, it wasn't that long ago because we were already, like, season 2 was out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it feels like I've lived 3 lives since then.
Yeah, a lot has happened. We were just saying we've been having a break from the podcast for a while, so we're a bit rusty. So it's nice to have you guys with us to like help ease us back into podcast world.
We also have been kind of on a break. So
Yeah.
So everyone bear with us. We're all a little out of it.
It'll all come out in the edit. It's fine.
Yeah.
Subscribe to our Patreon for the ridiculous outtakes.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So yeah, how did y'all feel about season 2?
Oh my goodness. Right. I've just rewatched very briefly and like on fast forward double speed to remind myself of the whole thing in one morning. And I felt all the feelings. Like season 2 was a lot.
Yeah.
Like, they packed so much in.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys all feel?
I love season 2.
Yeah.
I knew I was gonna love it before it came out just because of some of the like iconic comic stuff we were gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching it just there's something about season 2. Season 1 will always be special.
Yes.
It has like, it feels, innocent and fresh and like magical. But the more mature themes of season 2 and like getting to see them grow as a unit is just I love it so much.
Yeah. It truly takes you on a journey of the full experience of human emotion, like from the highest highs to the lowest lows. And it's like, it's so weird because there are moments where you're just like, like giggling and feet kicking, as Ashley always says, right? But then you also like 5 minutes later are like curled up, hugging a pillow and crying because it just takes you on this journey, especially it's getting into like this much more like intense and serious subject matter. And it's just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had some mixed feelings about season 2. And I'm aware that in the shadow of season 1, sorry, it was never going to feel quite so groundbreaking, perhaps.
Right.
And for me, I think some of the power in season 1 was that it was just innocent and cozy. Whereas for me, when we started to get into some of the trickier stuff, although I think obviously it's all really important and it's all dealt with really well. For me, what it lost was that kind of, actually there is queer joy out there, which season 1 really portrayed. And I know it's important to capture both sides. And I guess season 2 is the middle and is getting us towards the end. And hopefully we're going to have that really optimistic outcome. But yeah, I think there were things that I struggled with and there were things that I felt that it didn't deal with as well as it could have done. But there were also some amazing moments in it. So I think the fact that I'm comparing it against season 1 is really unfair.
I will
in its
say
own right.
Another thing too about season 2 that I keep thinking about is the fact that Alice wrote season 1 to be one season, but knowing that they had season 3 greenlit already, they could kind of play around. They didn't have to worry about keeping everything so like tight in terms of there's loose ends that aren't tied in the way that they were in season 1, and I think that definitely contributes to that feeling of like it's not ending on the joy that season 1 did.
Ending on a cliffhanger that I do not love, and I assume that we're okay to talk about this already, because if you're listening to this episode, you should have watched season 2 of Heartstopper, and if you have not, then
that's a you problem.
Full spoilers ahead. I also think that it's important, while we're still at the top, to mention again that you all are reading the comics with the show, correct? So like you didn't really have an idea of what was coming in season 2 the way that people who read the comics did. So I think that also changes your perspective on it a little bit, because there were some curveballs in there that you didn't know were coming.
Okay, well, you can tell us now. We haven't done our episode about the comics yet, but we will be reading the comics and doing an episode on that to catch up with where the TV show has got up to. So as long as you don't tell us any major spoilers about anything in the comics later on, then we can talk about how it compares. How did you guys feel about that? Was it like, what were the curveballs? Good curveballs? Like extra things that you liked?
I just feel like you really didn't, if you didn't read the comics, you didn't know like the mental health journey that Charlie starts to like go on in season 2. And so I feel like that could be a huge curveball coming off of the wholesomeness of season 1 and how optimistic it is, and not realizing that, oh shit, there's some other heavier stuff that's definitely coming. So yeah, but as far as like the iconic shots, like all the Paris stuff was just brilliantly done. The truth or dare scenes, like, oh, so good.
I don't know. I know David has feelings about the Paris section.
Oh no, I'm going to come off really negative. It was because I did really enjoy it. I think, I think the 2 bits that you've just mentioned there were my 2 biggest issues with the whole season.
Oh no!
So for me, the Paris, from the right from the beginning of the series, or from the season, we were set up with the idea that Nick and Charlie were going to have this cathartic kiss on the top of the Eiffel Tower, and that they were going to be out to everyone.
They literally said it in episode 1, didn't they? Yeah. Like, oh, if you manage to come out before Paris, we can kiss on the Eiffel Tower. And I was like, well,
and even happening. The promo stuff with them, like with the Eiffel Tower in the background. So when we didn't get that, I was really disappointed. Although, obviously, I recognise it was really important that we dealt with Nick's coming out properly, and that we kind of gave it that weight. But then also, when he did come out in the Truth or Dare, I felt like he was forced, and I felt like all of the times in the season where he comes out, he's kind of forced into it. He's forced into it with Imogen. He's forced into it in the Truth or Dare, and I just felt like we never dealt with that. We never gave him the opportunity to kind of explore how it felt to be put in that position unfairly. And even with his family and like with David, like all of that was out of his control, and that felt really unfair to me. And obviously it happens. That's life, isn't it? But I would have liked us to have explored that a bit more, and to kind of to explore the impact of that on him.
That's fair. That's another like storyline that I kind of already knew how it was going to play out just from the comics. So yeah.
But I actually hadn't even thought about, they do kind of set it up like there's going to be this big cathartic moment in Paris that just doesn't happen. And if you don't know coming into it, you're going to have that expectation. But
yeah, very valid point.
It was still lovely. The Eiffel Tower bit was still lovely. And I felt like when they were all running up the stairs to the Eiffel Tower, like Nick and Charlie were at the front of the class holding hands. I was like, how has everyone not seen that they are holding hands right now? And then when his friends shout up to him, like, oh, was it you that gave Charlie the hickey? And he's like, what if it was? I was like, it's happening. He's about to come out. This is it. And then Charlie's like, oh, never mind. Maybe we should separate a little bit so people don't get suspicious. Bye. And I was like, wait, what? No. Yes. But yeah. Like you say, it needed to be handled sensitively, and he needed to have a bit more time. But then, even though they gave him a bit more time, he still didn't get to do it on his own terms. It was still like, who gave you the hickey? And then he felt kind of forced into it in the Truth Dare situation. So, yeah.
So I have a bit of a thought on that too, because it's not like everyone kind of fell on the consensus of Charlie doesn't have to answer this question. And I think if Nick didn't say anything, they would have been like,
moved on.
That was really fucked up. Let's move on. And like maybe created like a boundary of like, maybe we don't ask these like super, super personal questions. And then, but Nick makes the choice of jumping in because it wasn't his question. It wasn't to him. So he makes the choice to jump in and be like, I know who it was. It was me. Right. So like, I feel like it is set up in such a way that like, if we kind of play the alternate universe version where he doesn't say anything out, they were resolving that. And the person who asked the question was the antagonist of the scene, and it was getting squashed pretty handily. So like that's I think a way that I like to think of it is like he's still making the choice in that moment to say that. I also like love that scene from the comics.
Yeah.
With all of my heart and soul. But like when I think about it, it is, you know, I feel like it's not so much him being forced into like confronting it and saying it, because everyone was ready to drop it, and then he made the decision to say something.
Yeah, to me, it feels like it's been building all season up to that point. He's had all this pressure. He's putting all this pressure on himself. And so he gets to that point and takes that opening. But also, I think that Charlie's reaction on the Eiffel Tower makes sense because of his like speech in in episode 1 at the end, where he talks about how he's going to like protect Nick from everything. And so even though Nick is taking these like baby steps, Charlie's like anxiety is stepping in and being like, no, wait.
Yeah.
Do this carefully.
Almost overcompensating a bit.
Yeah. There's this like really interesting tension throughout the entire season of Nick managing his desire to come out with Charlie's anxiety and like trying to figure out the like perfect moment. And then I feel like the Truth or Dare scene is Nick realizing there is no perfect moment, and it's building, and I can just get this over with right now.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
And actually, thinking about it that way, like you said, if he hadn't have stepped in, it wasn't his question. The others were already handling it, and they probably would have dropped it. That does make me feel a bit better. Does that make you feel better, David? Do you feel?
Yeah. Okay. I think it does.
Okay, yeah. But overall, it was just a fantastic season. Like, I think those were the little niggly things that we discussed that, like, maybe we would have changed it a little bit so that Nick, like, came to that decision himself. But like you said, he kind of did. So I feel okay about that now.
You're definitely right about, like, his family and, like, David and all of that stuff, though. It's all super forced, which sucks.
Yeah, it does. But I do think that's an important part of establishing David as a villain of the piece.
Yes.
It's just like, this is the nightmare scenario. This is the person, like, it's an invasion of privacy. It's supposed to feel icky.
Yeah, it does very firmly put him on that side, doesn't it? And it's like, we don't like this guy.
Right.
And very firmly cements Tori as a badass.
Yes.
You asked us if we had any favourite songs from the soundtrack.
Yes.
And I did make a note that the very first scene, like the opening song of the very first episode, Shatter, sets the tone so well and got me so excited to watch the whole season. And then it ends with that kind of like mini roller coaster. Like the whole season was one big roller coaster, but in the first 3.5 minutes, I know because I paused it and checked like how quick this all went, there was already a whole roller coaster of like Nick not being in his seat when Charlie got into the classroom, which made my heart stop for a second because I was like, it's happening again. The like kill your gays theory of like something always goes wrong when there's a gay couple just being happy, like one of them gets injured or something. Why is he not in school? Where is he? And then him appearing behind him, and then the montage of them kissing and having a lovely time, and then the hand crackles, and this is all in 3.5 minutes before the title card. All with Shatter playing in the background, and that just feels like the perfect setup for this season.
Definitely agree. My top 2 songs, this is excluding Baby Queen, because she's like a different level of, like, I've extracted her from the soundtrack and put her in my heart, so she doesn't count on this list.
Am I right Taylor Swift doesn't count her either. Live since we last spoke as well, Baby Queen?
Yeah, I went and saw her in New York.
Was it amazing, as I suspect it was?
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to see Baby Queen live, she is phenomenal. The energy at her concerts, it's just so good. So yeah, excluding Baby Queen and also excluding Taylor Swift, my top two like finds from season 2 are Paradise from the Park Scene and Never Be the Same. Those two, I listen to them all the time. I'm going to wax poetic about that song later in my notes. So,
fantastic. I was just about to say, you might have to remind me when that one is, because I'm not good with the names of songs, but I will. Yeah. If you tell me which scene it was in, I will.
When they're running from the museum down to the train station.
Yeah.
I listen to that song all the time.
Yeah, my top played songs on Spotify are pretty much always just like the Heartstopper soundtrack, seasons 1 and 2. It's all fantastic.
Yeah.
My top 2 finds, because there's songs that I knew that were in this season that I was like, oh my god. And I'll talk about those in a minute. My top 2 that I like discovered from this were Paradise and Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I listen to Mona Lisa all the time. But You Wouldn't Like Me by Tegan and Sara is like a perfect Charlie song. And I was mad because when we did a music episode for season 1 and we talked about songs that we thought should be in season 2, I was mad that I didn't think of Tegan and Sara. And that's because I associate them so strongly with Grey's Anatomy, because Where Does the Good Go is like one of the iconic Grey's Anatomy songs. But then, and then like Seven, of course, because Taylor. And then I did just write every Baby Queen song this season, including the cover of Just Like Heaven, which I bought on vinyl because Baby Queen released the like 7-inch single. And I was like, I need it.
I definitely squealed when I realized that it was Baby Queen, like actually at the prom. Yeah, the first time we watched it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I love the song Mona Lisa. That one's really catchy. But when Colours of You played, I was just like, that proper got me, because that it's so evocative, that song, and I had such strong links with the first season, even though it wasn't in it. I was convinced that it was.
It's in the teaser.
Yeah. But it was so well placed, and has a really personal connection for me as well. So that was my highlight when we got that moment. But like, they're just so good at pitching exactly the mood with the song and matching that up. They always get it spot on, don't they?
Yeah. With Colours of You going into season 2, I was like, they need to dance to Colours of You at prom. And that is the only way that you will satisfy me with using that song. And then this is how they used it. And I was like, I will eat all of my words, because this is the only way you can use this song.
This is better. Yeah. And the fact that they were actually wearing colours of each other's flags and this show.
Yeah. Everything is so intentional.
Yeah. It really is. Like, even I noticed this time of rewatching this morning, like the background conversations, as well as like when there's a main conversation going on in the foreground between, like, the one that I noticed was between Nick and his Charlie and his mum after they have the dinner party at Nick's house, and Nick and Tori are stood way in the background. And if you listen carefully, you can hear their conversation, and they are talking about how much of a prick David is at the same time. And you would not spot that on the first time of watching, which is why you need to obsessively watch this show like 5 times at least and make a podcast about it.
Yeah. Do you know what blew our mind during our season 2 wrap? Was we get people to write in, and someone was like, oh, if you go all the way back to season 1, episode 1, and you pay attention to when Charlie like sits down beside Nick to say hi for the first time, his freaking badge on his jacket changes to hearts instead of spades, and I had never noticed it, and I was like, how are we in season 2 and I've watched this show 50 million times and I have never caught that.
Amazing.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Just these little things. I'm like, I need the master document of all of these small details that, unless you're watching it with like the fine-tooth kind of like microscope that you do when you're like picking it apart literally frame by frame, you're not going to catch.
And I doubt there even is one master document. I doubt there is like one person in the world that knows, unless there's someone who's watched it more times than us, which if you are that person, fair play, and please write in.
But share
like,
that document.
I doubt even the creators probably don't know, because like they'll have had a whole team responsible for set dressing that'll have put little clues in there, and then a whole separate team responsible for like all the audio and making sure the levels are right for all those little hints of conversations. And like just the whole team responsible for this show just deserves.
I would guess that Eros, Alice, and Patrick know everything,
I was
because
say Alice will know, won't she?
the level of like producer and everything that they're at, they get final approval over everything regardless. So they would have to know all those little details. Because like that kind of executive producer, and obviously Eros directed the whole thing, they would have to approve all of those little details.
Then we need to speak to them directly.
Yes. Check your inboxes, please. We will be emailing relentlessly.
Okay, should we get into it? Like, we were going to do the same format as last time, weren't we? Where we do your usual features of giving our favorite quote and our favorite, like our scale, a Heartstopometer scale rating for each episode. And you were going to do our usual features of giving your advice for one of the characters and your Heartstopper moment.
Yeah.
So, episode 1. Who wants to jump in?
I'll go first. So my Heartstopper moment is the goodbye kiss at the end, in front of all the friends. It's so sweet, and everyone's so happy for them, and it's a big step for Nick and Charlie in their coming out journey, and it's so beautifully done. Honorable mention to the locker room candy bar thank you kiss, because that one is also
solid.
Just like gets my breath in my throat caught. But I have to give it to the overall group moment there at the end of everyone just being supportive and happy for them. Do you want me to do my advice too and then just do it that way, or are we going to do all moments and then advice?
I think we should just go person by person.
Okay.
Person by person.
So
I say casually, just stalling because I forgot about the Heartstopper moment thing and I need to scroll back through my notes on how.
Okay, so my advice in this one is for Charlie in response to his speech at the end. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, and you know firsthand how bad it can get and how quickly it can get out of control. And maybe you both should talk to a trusted adult, maybe Mr. Ajayi or Coach Singh or even Sarah, and have them be aware of the situation and the risks that are come along with this situation, so that they're alert and ready to intervene if something bad does happen. So that's my advice.
Even just the advice to just not put as much pressure on yourselves.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So my advice, I'm going to start with my advice for episode 1 is to Charlie. At the end, he's talking to Tori and he has this whole monologue. There are a lot of things that you are trying to control outside of your control. You can be there for Nick and support him and love him, but you cannot make everything perfect for him because there is no such thing as perfect. Things are going to suck, but it's how you respond to the suckiness that is important.
Yes.
Yes. And basically, he just needs to learn the lesson of you can only control how you respond to things. You can't control anything else.
Yeah.
And my Heartstopper moment, in case we cut my previous joke out, I forgot about this part And so I am having to figure it out.
The figuring it out part is that you can only pick one, isn't it? Because there's so many already just packed into this first episode that it's tricky.
So I think for episode 1, though, I am gonna go with, honestly, when Nick like comes and like puts his eyes around Charlie and Charlie turns around and sees, like, not put his hands over Charlie's eyes. I don't know why. It gives me an emotion.
I think it's that thing. It's that thing that I was saying of like, oh no, he's not in his chair, and like the holding your breath of like, oh, is this where things are gonna start going wrong? And then he's there and they're happy and it's all nice and
and it's so cute.
Yes. And like I think too, because that was like the first look that we got that like first 2 minutes, and in that, like, it just like from just that like 2 minutes I just like felt so many things. And so
I also just love I came out to my mom last night. Meanwhile, Kit Connor's aged like 5 years in one night.
Oh, he must have really hit the gym last night, huh?
That sun really did something for him up the beach.
Yeah. Artistic license. We'll forgive them. We can ignore that. We can ignore that. We just have to like not watch both series back to back. Okay.
Go on, Kate.
So, quote from the first episode. It was a toss-up between 3 for me. So actually, you go first, David, because you'll have been more decisive than me, and then I can just pick whichever one you didn't choose, because I'm guessing you might have picked one of these as well.
Well, if by decisive you mean didn't have time to rewatch all the episodes, so so I found a list of quotes from the series and sort of picked based on that. I went with, for this episode, no more kissing at school, just because it made me laugh. And it was off the back of that really lovely moment in the locker room with the chocolate bar, where they almost got caught. And it's a bit playful, but it's also like, okay, there is some like actual risk here as well. And I liked all of that moment. So that's where I went for with my quote. My Heartstopper, I have to say, I'm going to struggle across all 8 episodes, I think, because I don't have that fresh reaction and it's all kind of blurred a bit. So I remember this first episode feeling really strong. So I'm going to go for a solid 4 out of 5. The reason I'm not going for 5 is just because of the whole coming out party, which was another example of pressure for me. So that just knocks the shine off it a little bit. Obviously those beautiful moments that you've talked about kept it up there for me.
We definitely we were super frustrated with the group pressuring Nick as much as they did at that party, especially like Elle, who just told Tara and Darcy last season, like, stop pressuring me, like, this is not your decision. And then she's like, you need to tell her. And I'm like, what is going on,
girl?
I feel like they were trying to be supportive, but they just got way too aggressive about it.
Agreed.
The intention was good,
right,
but the outcome was just pressure. And it was intended to be supportive, but I feel like they could have done that by just like creating the nice environment for him to tell her if he wanted to, and then just shut up about it. But,
I just personally don't know if inviting her to hang out with this particular group of humans as a vehicle through which to be able to tell her was the best decision, because she doesn't know them.
Like, they're like, oh, who's here? Who else did you invite? And it's like, you didn't tell them that you were inviting Imogen to this? Like,
it was just a very strange setup.
Okay, well, you didn't actually go for any of the 3 quotes that I went for, so I'm going to go all 3.
I've not helped you at all.
Perfect.
No, you've not helped yourself, because now you're going to have to listen to all 3 of them. So my 3 were Tori. I treasure my alone time when Charlie was asking her why she wasn't signing up for... Oh, no, it wasn't when she wasn't signing up for Paris, was it? It was when she didn't want to join them for the
for the party.
And it'll be fine, she's an ally from Darcy when they were talking about Imogen coming, which I just thought was hilarious. And another one from Darcy, I can't believe people think he's straight.
Yeah, very good.
Which is the one that I thought you might have gone for, because that whole scene of them kissing outside Charlie's house and Nick like getting that confidence of being open in front of their friends is really, really lovely. And I give it a 10 out of 10. And are we supposed to be doing our Heartstopper out of 10? Because
it's usually on a 5. But there aren't a lot of it's loose rules. So
I'm pretty sure that for one of the episodes I said 85 billion out of 5. Yeah. So like this is the energy that we're bringing to the Heartstopper.
Yeah.
This may be why I did not recall that 5 was the limit, because I have a feeling we had a similar discussion last time we met. I scored it 10 out of 10 and have written heart exploding roller coaster, because like it was all there, like all the things we love from season 1, like the lightning bolts, like the hand crackles, and like Elle with the your hair looks cute long, and like it's just all felt very fizzy. Is that an appropriate adjective? Yeah. I enjoyed it very much.
Nice.
So episode 2 then.
So for me, my moment is like hands down the park scene. It's so tender. The song is so perfect. It really mirrors the snow scene in Crush, which is also episode 2. And it just, both of those scenes feel like falling in love.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really conveys the like fluttery heart, like excited nausea, all encompassing like happiness that comes with falling in love. So definitely the park scene for me. And then my advice is for Sarah. Sweet baby pumpkin pie, Sarah. I need you to please get your firstborn in check. I know you love him and you kind of have a weird dynamic with him after the divorce, but you're not protecting Nick enough at a time when he needs you to step up. And I think that some things that we see later in this season would not have happened had Sarah talked to David right here and made it clear that he has to respect Nick and his identity, and anything less will not be tolerated. So that's my advice.
So my advice is again to Charlie. Ashley knows what's coming, partially because we discussed this earlier. Dearest Charlie, write your fucking essay. It will solve all of your problems. Like,
thank you.
It drove me crazy through episodes 2 and 3 how long it took him to write this essay. Because it's not like his mom was like, you are not allowed to see Nick until X date. It was, you are not allowed to see Nick until you hand in this single assignment.
I'm getting really serious deja vu. Did we already discuss this last time we met? Or have you guys discussed this on your podcast and I've just listened to it? Because
I had several rants about this on our podcast. We also might have talked about it.
Because we touched on season 2 a little bit in our last episode together, so we may have still been like hyped up about this and brought it up on that episode too.
Yeah, but
we definitely had similar discussions as well. I think, didn't we, on ours?
I'm just like, my guy. Like, number one, like if I had to give other advice, it would be to Jane, and I'm like, please research responsive parenting, and implement it immediately. That would also be my advice to Jane in this episode, because I have a lot of feelings about Jane. But Charlie, it's just like, dude, it literally would solve all your problems in the episode, and they drag it out for 2 whole episodes when they have no need to. Aside from Charlie being a petulant teenager in a way that we really don't see him
that's
anywhere
true. He
else.
does seem quite like studious in every other way, doesn't he? And like his name is on that list in school of like some of the top achievers, and it seems a bit odd that he wouldn't just be like, oh, fine, just do it.
I will bring this up again. Something I mentioned is that it's his resistance to doing it is likely tied into his need for control. And she's telling him he has to do it. And so the way he can control that is by not doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so I feel like that kind of ties into his journey this season as well.
Yes. I will say, like, have definitely been there. And like, so I get it. But also now being an adult and on the other side of it, I'm like, my guy, it doesn't work out. Like, never in the history of my entire academic career did putting assignments off as a way of gaining control, did it actually solve the problem, and in fact created more problems when it's literally 10 p.m. and the assignment is due at midnight. Like,
right.
Just, yeah. And then in terms of my Heartstopper moment, it is also that same like montage in the park. But actually more so for me, it's Charlie's walk home afterwards. And I would like to just share something from my notes from when we covered this episode, which is Charlie scrolls through Nick's page, lots of rugby, lots of Nelly, a Formula One meme, the picture he just posted, caption says, I think Nelly loves him. And this is all in all caps. I'm not going to shout, but just it is in all caps. I am dead. Code blue, ladies and gentlemen. Alyssa has left the chat and also this mortal coil. And then the rainbow animation around him. I am so unwell.
Yeah.
So I died.
The soft launch killed you.
It did.
I had a very, very similar reaction.
Yeah.
Oh,
the rainbow animation is really good.
And the rainbow.
It was really just the I think Nelly loves him. Just I was like and the song is perfect.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was just looking back at our Instagram to remind myself what we actually chose as our Heartstopper moment. And we went for Tao's conversation with his mum.
We did.
In that episode.
We did. Yeah.
Also
different kind of heart-stopping.
Yeah.
Yeah, very different kind of heart-stopping. I think it was the fact that it made me cry, wasn't it? Because there's that bit at the end where the Tegan and Sarah You Wouldn't Like Me starts playing, and then he starts scrolling through the pictures of Elle with her new friends at Lambert, and that just broke me. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's when we learn about his dad, right? So that also puts season 1 Tao into perspective for everyone, because we didn't know that going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we had a lot of discussion about that, and it was for that reason that I picked a quote from that scene for my favourite quote, which is when his mum says, you have to fight to stay by her side, and it just kind of summed up, I suppose, the loss that she has and that she wasn't able to keep fighting, and it just totally changed my view on Tao for the rest of the season, that whole scene. So that was what I went for there.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going for another kind of 4 out of 5 for this episode for my Heartstoppometer. Because again, loads of really good stuff in this episode, some lovely moments that you've picked out, but a lot of kind of setting up of stuff that's to come. So it didn't feel like it was kind of the emotional meat of the season.
Fair.
I've gone 10 out of 10 again on my slightly extended scale. Again, it just had so much in it, like the park scene that I think Nelly loves him, the Elle actually going and meeting new people at Lambert, and the speaking it into the universe that she's going to get to go there, and Nick's very first I'm bi actually to his brother. It just had so many iconic moments for all the different characters that I just loved it. Oh, and those were my quotes. Yeah. I think Nelly loves him. I'm speaking into the universe, and I'm bi actually.
Nice.
Yeah. And
solid
if I have
choices.
to pick just one, I'll go with I'm bi actually, because I may have audibly whooped when he said that.
That's another iconic comic scene that I was waiting for. So
I have seen stills of that comic scene alongside the show, and it's they've done a fantastic job of recreating that, haven't they?
Yeah. All right, so on to Promise.
On to Promise.
Okay, so for this one, for my moment, I cheated. It's more of a section than it is a moment.
Yeah, we sometimes stretch the definition of a moment a bit. Yeah, it's fine.
So I picked the opening from like really good mates all the way to afterwards when Nick is in the office talking to Coach Singh. My note just says it's such iconic comic goodness. And we also get like that very important talk with Coach Singh about you don't owe anyone the information. And so, yeah, getting the really good mates is something that we had talked about, like, they better include that in the show. They better include that in the show. And then so getting that was like, yes. And then honorable mention to the end scene of them in bed talking about everything, but also it makes me really sad, so I'm going with positivity on this one.
Yeah.
And then my advice is for Tao. I wrote, Bud, I love you, but you gotta chill. She likes you. You do not have to change who you are to try and win her over because you already have her. Just be you and try not to put too much pressure on yourself. You hang out all of the time. This is no different, except you might kiss at the end. So maybe just relax and everything will be fine.
If only we could have shouted that
right.
through the screen to him.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So for promise, I have two pieces of advice. One is like legit advice. The other one's kind of silly. So my serious advice is to Tao. Stop stressing about how to ask Elle out and be yourself. She knows you. She likes you. Trying to be someone else is not going to work out for anyone involved. Like, you're overthinking this, my guy. Stop. And then also for Darcy, vampire prom is a great idea. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Source, Ashley and I have been to several. It's great. Also, unrelated, have you heard of a show called Buffy the Vampire
Slayer? Of course.
And my Heartstopper moment is actually also, I just wrote Coach Singh. Just all of the stuff with her, walking in on them in the equipment shed and the conversation that she has with Nick. It's just so good. And so necessary. I'm
really glad you brought that scene up, because again, that was where my quote came from, because that scene was just so beautiful, really succinct. It's like, it's such efficient script writing, isn't it? But you learn so much about Coach Singh, and even though she's not a naturally warm character, is she? What she's saying is so meaningful, and so I went with the quote, "You don't owe anyone that information," and the way she delivers it. It's just so firm, and I think it gets exactly where it needs to be in Nick's mind. So yeah, that was my quote. And I think that this was one of my favorite episodes of the season. I think there was a lot of good stuff in it. There's a lot of tension in this episode building, and we're starting to kind of see where the threads are going. I love the whole scene at the party after the exam results. So I'm putting that one at a 4.8.
So close to a 5.
Okay, you're saving that 5 for something in particular, aren't you?
I'm saving the 5. The 5.
I put my quote as, I picked 2 again. Oh, I'm so sorry. The first one I picked was, you and Charlie are really good mates, just because it made me howl. And then the montage, the like super quick montage of like good mates immediately afterwards is hilarious. But also a quote from Sarah at the end, where she's like, "Nick's so lucky to have you, Charlie," because I thought that was just so sweet. And it just shows like the kind of parent she is and how she sees Nick and Charlie and appreciates them and their relationship for how sweet and lovely they actually are. I thought that was really nice. I've actually dipped a little on my scale for this episode, so I thought it's interesting you went the other way, David. I've given this one an 8 out of 10 because it was still great, but it just didn't give me like all the warm fizzy feelings of the first 2. It was a bit more of like a step into the heavier themes. And so like heart stopping wise, I found it a little bit lower, but still great.
I think my ratings on this series are more structural And I think where I've had issues with the plot, that has impacted more on perhaps my rating than the emotional beats, I think. Yeah. So, I think mine are more head decisions this time.
Sorry, David, just as you're talking about your like plot issues and like not having the context of the comics, I like really want to get my husband on to talk about his thoughts because he hasn't read the comics and he's like a super nitpicky film person and he's only watched it like once. Like we watched it together. His first watch was my second watch. But I remember him saying that he preferred season 1 to season 2, and I feel like the two of you might have similar critiques. And I just thought of that, and so I'm just kind of speaking it into the universe. Maybe we get the two of you on an episode together.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like a whole extra episode in itself.
That's interesting, though, isn't it? Yeah. No, would be happy to save my thoughts.
Yeah. And I think the other thing we discussed on our podcast just about season 2 versus season 1 in general is that like season 2 has so much more plot that like on first watch, when you're directly comparing it to the first season without us having the context of having read the comics, and you're trying to keep up with all the different plot, it didn't feel like it gave you time to get as emotional about it. I feel like I've got more emotional rewatching it the third, fourth, fifth times once I'd had time to absorb all the information dumping that was coming my way. So that might contribute, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I, on the other hand, watched it like the second that it came out, and from episode 1 all the way to the end was just like sobbing. Watching it. But again, I knew kind of what was coming.
Yeah,
so that's it,
you'd already kind of processed.
Right.
Yeah, that processing time just wasn't there on the first watch. And as well, like the kind of the time for the actors to do their thing, because they're so good that sometimes they just didn't have the time to do what they could have done with some of the scenes. But I think, as you say, knowing what was coming into, when you went into the season, you knew what was coming, and so you didn't need that time maybe in the same way that we did.
It was more like, this is happening now. Like, we're doing this now.
There's still like there's a lot of stuff that they added. Like especially because of the roles that Imogen and Isaac play in this season, and they're not in the comics, so it's like there was a lot with those two that was pretty intense, like and that definitely took some time. I remember I watched it a couple hours after Ashley did, and just me texting her my reactions and her just being like, just you wait.
Oh, yeah. I think my experience of watching the first series was just, what? No. Oh, what? Like audibly reacting and sobbing basically from probably about episode 3 onwards continuously. Whereas the second series, I didn't get that immediate emotional high that I got from the first series. But I have cried plenty on rewatches of season 2 to make up for it, so it's fine. Okay, are we up to? Oh, I was just going to look what our Heartstopper moment was for episode 3. Oh, it was when Nick falls asleep on Charlie at the end, and Charlie's talking about how it would be nice if you could come out, and I'd really like us to be able to be more open, but Nick's already asleep. Bless the sucks. Okay,
BBs.
Episode 4 then.
Okay, for challenge. So for my moment, I have 2, kind of like a fun one and then a real sweet one. The fun one is Imogen breaking up with Ben.
Woo!
I wrote, I can't help it. I am who I am. I was like, fuck yes, queen. You fucking dump his ass in front of everyone. Go for the throat. Please stop saying Charlie's name out loud. But otherwise, fuck him up. And then so for my sweet moment, that made my heart stop in like a mushy way would be Nick and Tao bonding near the end when Nick is telling Tao that he's cool and interesting and like trying to hype him up through his L troubles. And Tao actually like hears him and opens up a little. And all of the Nick and Tao stuff is just like so special to me. So I loved that scene. And then my advice is kind of funny. It's just for Nick. Don't focus on one spot too long when you're making out. Maybe move around a bit. Switch it up some.
Yeah.
That's solid advice.
Oh my goodness.
So my advice is to Imogen, and it actually ties in with my Heartstopper moment. So my Heartstopper moment is Nick and Charlie comforting Imogen in the bathroom after the breakup. I really love that scene. And my advice to her, especially in that moment, is Imogen, please listen to the album Fearless Taylor's Version by Taylor Swift. In particular, the songs 15 and White Horse, because I think that they would do you a lot of good right now. Also, the albums Speak Now and Red probably also be really good for you in this moment. But whenever I think about that episode, I'm just like, yeah, you need Fearless.
I have zero reference point for that album. So would you mind expanding on that a little?
So Fearless is an album that Taylor Swift wrote when she was about 18 years old. And it's kind of like very reflective of her experience of being in high school and all of the things she didn't know. And in fact, the song 15, there is a line in it where it's in life you'll do things greater than dating the boy on the football team. I didn't know it at 15. And I feel like that line and like that whole like message in the song would be really important for Imogen in this moment. And then in White Horse, the line is, there's a line, I'm not a princess, this ain't a fairy tale, I'm gonna find someone someday who might actually treat me well. And like, I just need her to hear that. I really need her to hear that. Also, Red is just a great breakup album, and I think that would be good for her in this moment. And Speak Now is super empowering. And so I think that kind of trifecta would do her some good right now.
I am so loving this idea of like a combination of Taylor Swift albums almost as a prescription. Like, you need these three.
Love that.
Okay, so David, I feel like you should go first with your quote for episode 4, because again, I've got a couple of selections and I think you might pick one of them. So
fair enough. So I went with, I think it's time I focus on myself. From the bit when she's breaking up with Ben.
Again, that's not one I chose.
I love that. I love the way she delivers it.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of, it's so in character with Imogen, isn't it? But I think the sentiment behind it's really important. I will caveat that with, as you say, Ashley, like the fact that she kept implementing Charlie the whole way through her breakup with Ben. And I can't understand why you're obsessed with Charlie. What a horrible thing to say. So that really upset me and brought that scene down for me. But that line I thought was great. So that's where I went with that. And Heartstopper, I think, for the reason that I feel like Charlie should legitimately have been very upset by that whole sequence, and nobody asked him how he was, and knocking it down to a 3. But I loved all the scenes in Paris, and I loved some of the other stuff in that episode. But yeah, that just brought it down.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
About her delivery, I love her delivery of, your energy is off. I love it so much that we did a friendship bracelet. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Friendship bracelet exchange with like our Discord members for the holiday. And that's one that I got was like, it's my favorite color is green. So it's like all these different greens and it says, your energy is off. And I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
Excellent.
She's very quotable character as Imogen, isn't she?
Yes,
yeah, and Rhea Norwood with the face acting, just
excellent.
Fantastic.
I love when they're getting on the bus and she's like, if I've overpacked, then it's the patriarchy's fault, not mine.
I was Imogen. not like fully, but like Imogen, I see a lot of my teenage self in Imogen.
Yeah.
And so I like really have like latched onto her as a character, and I love her and I would die for her. And I'm extremely protective of her.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's just great. And I think actually one thing that, so I can't remember if it was for our thing or if it was just something that our last episode together, or if it was just something that in another episode of ours, but I remember like I wrote like from one too much girl to another.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
then like I said something like in response, and I was just like, I just love her so much and I can't get over it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how her story develops in season 3. And I'm guessing you guys don't know much about that either, because she wasn't in the comics, was she?
Right.
I mean, I've written a whole version of it in my head, but that's, you know,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think it's been hinted at where it's going. So
Yeah.
I was joking,
I did
guys. I
love
didn't
that.
think they were gonna do it, and they're doing it.
Alyssa like called for Imogen and Sahar like all of season 1, and then we
Like
get to
out
season
of context,
2.
because I just like knew Sahar as a character, and I was like, she doesn't have a lot to do in the comics. She's just kind of there. And I was like, there's this character Imogen in the show, and I feel like she and Sahar would be in love.
Oh my
It's just a
goodness.
random thing that I threw out, but then towards
Oh,
the end of season 2, they start kind of hinting
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that
they do.
Yeah.
maybe becoming a thing, and I was like, I was joking.
I
I mean, I'm here for it, but I was just
Yeah.
being silly.
I wasn't sure how I felt about it, because I kind of liked the idea of Imogen being like learning to become a proper ally, and that being her story. And when she broke up with Ben, I thought it was going to be about her learning to love herself and being like, even though I would like to be with someone and I do experience attraction to people, I can learn to be with myself right now, and I can learn to be a better ally. And I thought that was going to be her journey. So when they introduced the her and Sahar thing right at the end, I was like, so like, I'm excited. I'm kind of excited to see where it goes, but also like I would have been okay with her just like being a strong, independent woman,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. Ashley and I, all throughout season 1 and season 2, there are a lot of things that Imogen does that are very baby bi coded.
Yeah.
And
In
so
retrospect.
that's also part of where my like original like joking theory about Imogen Sahar came from, was I was like, there's some bi energy going on here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this on purpose, or like what's going on? Because like even the like very vehemently insisting upon being an ally is a very baby bi thing.
Yeah.
True.
When you're like convincing yourself, I'm straight, I'm just an ally, and then you realize, oh wait, I also like girls, I'm not an ally, I'm bisexual. It's kind of like a universal bi girl experience, I feel like. So
Also, my thing about the ally role in this show is that I want to see it from the rugby lads, because I feel like in media we often get allies shown to us as female presenting.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, give me the rugby lad ally representation that I have been waiting for. So I'm like, go ahead and make her queer if you want, but I want the rugby lads to step in and have a bigger role in season 3, hopefully, and like be there for Nick in a way that they've kind of set themselves up to at the end of season 2.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
That would be really nice.
I'm going to hold out for that.
Harry, I mean, it'd be a heck of a turnaround, but he's already kind of part of the way there, and Nick and Charlie have already commented on like, did Harry just stick up for us?
Right.
So maybe that could be a role for him as well.
Harry's going on an exploration of meaning.
Yeah. My quote from episode 4 was the truly iconic, "You're being gay, good job, carry on."
Yes.
I did almost have I need an alcoholic drink, I need a croissant then, but I couldn't not choose "You're being gay, good job, carry on."
Yes.
I had that printed on a t-shirt to wear to Manchester Pride. We went for David's hag do, and I wore it to Manchester Pride with like the name of our podcast on the back and You're Being Gay, Good Job, Carry On the front.
Nice.
And it started a lot of nice conversations with a lot of nice Heartstopper fans. So I have emotional connection to that quote.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Oh, and for my Heartstoppometer for episode 4, I've gone 8 out of 10 again. I feel like it's a similar level for me as episode 3. It's kind of maintaining that kind of high, but not quite as high as the first 2 kind of level of heart-stoppingness.
Valid.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh God, I've just seen how many notes I have about episode 5. Okay, you guys go. I'll try and narrow this down.
So my moment is tricky because I can only say so much about it. There were several good moments in this episode that was hard for me to like pick, but I'm going with the end scene where they're running to the tube station to I'll Never Be the Same, even though I stand by my statement that Charlie should not be running after just having passed out, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
He runs a lot immediately after passing out. I can feel my heart in my throat during this scene, the sentiment of them promising transparency and support to one another and then running through Paris hand in hand. And we get the cute nods in the signage at the station where it translates to School of Heart. And then we get the like cute Alice bird artwork with the same birds we've been seeing since season 1 and the words fly away in French. And I love this song. I listen to it like almost every day. I love it so much. And I think that the isolated lyrics for this scene are so fitting. And I can't go into too much detail on that. But it was one of the major moments like on premiere night that I remember like sitting up and like clutching my chest and sobbing. I was like, oh my God. And so that scene is like very, very special to me. And then my advice is for Darcy. Sometimes it's really scary to let someone in, but taking that leap with someone you already trust and care for can pay off. It could mean having support for what you're going through, and that can change everything for the better.
Excellent.
So my advice is for Ben Hope. Kindly fuck right the fuck off. Yeah, I'm not gonna say too much more about that. My Heartstopper moment though is the towel kiss at the Louvre. It is beautiful. We've got Fall in Love with a Girl playing over it is really great. I just love it. It's just great. It's very well done. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Great.
Great play.
So for me, I picked the quote in the museum where Nick and Tao are talking, and he says, "You don't have to completely." Oh, sorry, it's not Nick and Tao, is it? It's Nick and Elle. Yeah. And he says, "You don't have to completely understand your feelings to know you like something. You don't have to always have it figured out. You can just feel." And I liked that it was kind of vaguely veiled as art talk, but it was like, here's some advice. And it pays off, and we get that moment that we've been waiting for. And I love the moment between Tao and Charlie on the bridge in that episode as well. So that kind of kept the score up when the Eiffel Tower massively dragged it down for me, because I just wanted that backlit swirling music kiss that I never got. And so this episode gets a 3 out of 5 for me as well.
That was one of the moments, both the Tao El kiss and the You Can Just Feel, where like I was like, how am I going to pick just a moment out of all of these are so good, but yeah.
That's the beauty of having 4 of us to discuss now.
Yeah.
So we can spread out. Although I did have the same quote as you written down, that you can just feel. However, obviously, I also have 3 more, so I'll just pick a different one.
Your strategy finally paid off.
So I've written, this isn't a quote, this is just an observation. I don't know how the rest of the class don't spot Nick and Charlie running up the Eiffel Tower at the front of the group holding hands. I don't know how that conversation, I've already told you this, but I feel like that conversation with the rugby lads on top of the Eiffel Tower could have very easily led to Nick coming out. But then I kind of understand why he didn't in that moment, because it would have been in front of the whole class and everyone else who was on the Eiffel Tower. So it's a little bit more pressure. Mm-hmm. But my quote that I decided to go for is actually two quotes. It's when the camera pans over all of them doing their French classwork on the grass in front of the Eiffel Tower, and Sahar telling Imogen, I don't even take French, but I know that's wrong. And Imogen, c'est la vie.
So good.
Fantastic. Right. And then Isaac really giving it to Harry as well. I was like, go off, Isaac. Absolutely. You tell him, because he's usually so quiet. And to see him like really putting Harry in his place and telling him is what I think then leads to Harry on the Eiffel Tower telling the other rugby lads to leave Nick and Charlie alone. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the start of Harry's growth. I'm hoping that's the start of Harry's growth into a reluctant ally eventually. He's got a long way to go, obviously, but I
also Toby's impression of Cormac is so good. It's like laugh with all your mates, like
it's just nice to see that side of Isaac, because he's usually so quiet and he's just an observer with his little books, and to see him like getting in there and getting involved was fantastic. So I've given this one a 9 out of 10. So the whole series is pretty high, spoiler alert, but this one's a 9 out of 10 for me because of the Tawonel's kiss and the Eiffel Tower almost kiss and the bit where Nick's like, oh, you do know it was me, and the hand crackles, and it was very, very sweet, even though they ultimately didn't have the kiss. It was still very nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So truth dare. I have quite a chunk written.
Same.
This one was the hardest for me to pick something from, I think. So I have 2 honorable mentions and then the moment that I chose. I'm going to start with the honorable mentions. The balcony scene is so beautifully shot and was completely fake, which blew my little naive mind. Seeing the green screen and realizing that they're just like sitting on the ground. But whatever.
I had no clue. I wish they would do like a whole series on just like the behind the scenes of how they made the show, because I don't think it would take away from the magic of it for me at all. I think I'd be quite happy to see all the bits like that. And still,
did you see the like compilation that Gorilla FX put out? VFX.
I'm not sure.
I'll DM it to you because it's on their Instagram. But that's how I found out that the balcony was fake, because they did like a shot by shot of all the VFX that they did for season 2.
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen that.
Can you send that to me also? Yep.
When we get done, I will send that to everybody. But that I was like, not the balcony scene. But I get chills watching that scene. It's so good. And then the other moment that I wrote down was the truth or dare Nick's coming out scene. I love everybody like having a good time and laughing and hanging out, except for poor Isaac, who is still at this party for some reason. And then the coming out scene, which is a perfect comic to screen transformation. So well done. But I have to give the moment to the Paris montage, ending them with them in like the gay district holding hands. Just when the other couple walks by them and they literally stop walking, they're stopped in their tracks and they look at each other and then they hold hands and they walk away just like beaming. And it's just so important. This is why representation matters, not only in media, but also just in day-to-day public life. It's a formative moment for them that they're going to remember forever. And just like seeing that other couple gave them the sense of security and courage to be themselves in public and not hide. And it's so beautiful and it makes me cry. And so
I love it.
That's the moment that I chose for this one.
Oh.
And then my silly advice is for everyone, at this party that there is a restroom in this room and in all of your rooms. And so if one of you gets sick, please don't run down the hallway for no reason. It will make it worse. And to maybe try throwing up in one of those bathrooms before you go to the teacher's room. Like, what the heck did you think they were going to do about it?
They're not going to stop you throwing up at this point. Like, no, and just get it out first.
Running is going to make it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Unless you're running to the toilet. Like, and then I also have actual advice for Stefan. Sir, you're a grown man and you have already missed out on so much of your son's life. He is literally in your backyard and you can't spare more than 5 minutes. I need you to get a therapist and get your shit together so that you can be a better father, please, and thank you.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I actually took a different angle on your advice to Stefan. My advice is to Nick. Mm-hmm. You do not need your dad's approval. You don't owe him anything. You don't owe him your time. You don't owe him a relationship. He's barely there for you and he has absolutely no interest in your life. He doesn't deserve a second thought from you. I know that this is so much easier said than done, but you have an incredible mom and amazing friends, and you do not deserve to feel the way Stefan makes you feel. Family is more than just blood, and there are so many people who are in your corner and who know you and see you and love you. Mm-hmm. I also have advice for Isaac, which is you purchased a book called Loveless while you were at Shakespeare and Company, and I need you to drop everything and read it right now. It's going to change your life. I did not
spot that he had purchased Loveless. Well, that is the perfect book for him to read right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And my Heartstopper moment is Nick coming out that the Truth or Dare scene. Honorable mention to the Farouk Ajayi kiss. Yeah. That gets knocked down a bit by the fact that the pukey sheets are still in the room and it nauseates me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smell must have still been lingering, but we'll ignore that. Because apart from that, it was very sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My quote is also to do with that sequence with Farouk and Ajayi and just Mr. Farouk saying, like, when you don't figure out you're gay until your late 20s, you miss out on those beautiful gay teenage experiences, and it's probably too late for me. And then Mr. Ajayi said, don't think there's an age limit. And I wept and was like, go get it. Like, go have your beautiful experiences. I love them. And I can't wait to see more of how their story develops in the season 3 because they're just so sweet.
I love the later in life coming out representation.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm supposed to give it a rating as well. So I was just like, so 10 out, but back up to 10 out of 10. I just thought the whole episode was just lovely. Still a little bit like of that roller coaster of like, you know, all the Ben stuff and like Harry showing up at the party and then like, do they let him in? Do they not let him in? And all that. But all in all, Nick and Charlie escaping party to hang out together, adorable. Pillow fight, sharing bed, adorable. Tara and Darcy's heart to heart, adorable. Teachers kissing, adorable. Just, loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm still at 3 out of 5. I'm just going right down the middle for all of these. Because there was some great stuff, and I loved the Farouk and Ajayi storyline coming to fruition. I love that Isaac's getting to know himself, even though it's a tough watch. I love that all of that is starting to come through, and we're getting some different representation. But I've sort of voiced my issues with the coming out scene, although you guys have given me another perspective on it today, so that's kind of nudged it back up again, I think. And the quote that I went for, which for me kind of was the saving grace in the coming out scene, was somebody in the background saying, do you want us to keep it a secret? And I was like, thank you for, even though we've gone through this awful situation, you're still prepared to, you recognize the significance of that reveal, and you're prepared to keep it a secret if need be. So that was my quote.
That was James, and I love that because
I couldn't work out who it was.
Yeah, because he's the only other like out gay character I mean, Tara and Darcy, but like that is learning this information out gay.
Yes.
And so it's on his brain, right? Oh, should we protect this information? And no one else would have really thought about that.
I think that the fact that everyone assumed that James gave Charlie the hickey, like I have to imagine that played into that of like just like how he must be feeling going through this, like having no involvement in it, and then just like wanting to protect Nick from that if he can.
But like on the flip side, I suppose he could also be desperate for everyone to know so that the attention is off him. So it could have gone the other way. But I'm glad that was voiced.
Definitely.
The fact that he was the one who was still willing to keep it a secret, even though the heat was kind of on him, is quite powerful, isn't it?
I love James.
Protect James at all costs.
Yeah, I just want him to be happy.
Yeah. So episode 7. Sorry.
Episode motherfucking 6. This one is rough. Okay, so my moment is Elle's painting reveal and her speech ending with the group hug. I don't think I have to explain why I chose that or how beautiful and heartwarming it is. And then my advice, I wrote, I would love to give Darcy's bitch mother a piece of my mind, but I'm not sure that would be advice per se. So I'm going to go with Sarah again. Sweet baby pumpkin pie Sarah. Please see the advice I gave you and family, and please use that backbone that we know you have to put your eldest in his place.
Thank you. So my advice is to Darcy, specifically when they're in the shop and she's trying on the suit. And everyone is like surrounding her. And I'm like, this is what family is. You deserve to feel this way all the time. And if anyone, even if they are quote unquote your family, makes you feel otherwise, they do not deserve to be in your life. I just think that would be really important for her in this episode. And that whole scene is actually also my Heartstopper moment. I waxed poetic about this moment in our episode about Sorry, because I love it so much. The way that they all surround her with all of this love and all of the support and are literally like fishing out their pocket money to try and make sure that she can buy this suit. I'm gonna cry. So it's beautiful. I love it. I feel like I said every time, like, this is what queer community is.
Yeah.
Is that moment. And I love it so much.
Oh, you guys give such good advice.
They're all just like so happy and willing to like contribute to this joy for her.
Yeah.
And you're right. That's exactly what a family should feel like. And yeah. I'm really glad for all of them that they have that in each other.
So I think my Heartstoppometer score for this one is probably up to a 4 for this one.
Okay.
Again, I had some issues. I thought there was some stuff that they executed really well. I felt that Isaac got gaslit, I think is the wrong word, but I felt like he had this big moment in front of all of his friends, and this big outburst, and then it was just kind of forgotten about, and I was really frustrated at all of them for that, especially given the scene that had just come before it where they were all wrapping around Darcy. I was really surprised that they weren't kind of there for Isaac in the way that I would have wanted them to be, but I thought that some other stuff they executed really well, but obviously there was some more serious subject matter in there. And my quote was from Sweet Baby Pumpkin Pie Sarah. Which is when she says,
in your accent, David. I've got to say.
Quite the same, does it?
It's not quite the same.
You need the Tennessee, because I don't even think my Northeastern American could do it justice.
No, I can't do that one. But when she says, I think it's a very sad way to exist.
Yeah.
It was such a understated, but very fitting way to sum up Stefan. And I think, as you were saying earlier, Ashley, like, just Oh no, sorry, no, it was Alyssa. You were saying that that's like he's not even worth your time. It's just leave him to it because he's got a sad life, and don't let him bring us down. And that line was great.
Yeah.
Mine was also related to that dinner party sequence, and my quote was Tori telling David, "You're a pathetic little man, and if you talk about my brother like that again, I will end you." Because again, Tori just being a badass queen, and I love her. And then her conversation that I mentioned earlier in the background behind when Charlie is talking to his mum, and where she is talking to Nick, and she literally just goes up to Nick and says, "Your brother's a prick."
Yeah. Yeah. It's very good.
And Nick's like, "Oh, don't worry, he's always been like that." It's like, so nice. Like, no, you can say he's an asshole, it's fine. So that was really nice. I also just wanted to mention the other things that I noticed in the Lambert scene, because this is the one where I noticed so many things that I had not noticed the first however many times of watching. Like when Elle is getting ready to do her artwork reveal, there's projections on the wall behind Tao of the same style of butterflies that were appearing around them when they were kissing. That when they first get into Lambert, the lighting around Tao goes green after he hears that Elle got into Lambert, and then she's hugging her new friends, which I can only assume is symbolizing like a bit of jealousy. And the silhouette behind Sahar and Imogen, when Imogen's saying about being the token ally, looks like Tara and Darcy's kiss at Harry's party. Yeah. Is it?
It is, yeah. It's their like silhouettes of the two of them kissing, yeah.
Wow.
How and why? And who at Lambert has made this art piece about them? And did they consent to this? And I can't believe I never noticed any of those things before today. And it just shows that I need to continue rewatching another 100 times.
I did point out the silhouette artwork, but I never thought about like what student made this and why is it here? Like,
it's such a fun reaction to an Easter egg. I was like, wait a minute.
Hang on a second. A little bit creepy. Right. There were many people at that party.
It's true.
And it was a very powerful moment. So fair play.
And pretty much everybody was watching. As we find out that it's like the talk of the town when they go back to school. So just funny. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective.
I gave this episode 9 out of 10 overall.
Nice.
I can't remember what my exact reasoning was, but it just felt strong, but not my favorite.
Yeah. We still have some like Ben stuff bringing it down.
I was going to say, there's the Ben of it all that knocks it down.
Ben of it all. Oh, yeah, of course. That's his rainbow ocean moment, isn't it? It's in that episode as well. We talked a lot about this because as much as like Ben is obviously an asshole to Charlie throughout this series, and we strongly disagree with all his actions that he has done, and like all the things he's done have been awful, and he has been awful. But I still kind of at the end of this scene feel like I want there to be hope for him to get better, like to become a better person. And I would never like excuse what he's already done, but I would hope that like he can separate himself as a person from those actions, if that makes sense, and that he can grow as a person so he doesn't end up hurting anyone else in the future.
Right.
But he needs to do that somewhere else in the end.
Far away from Charlie.
Without spoiling anything for David, who hasn't read Solitaire, I feel like something that really annoyed me about this scene is the events of Solitaire. And sorry, Ben is in Solitaire. That's not a spoiler. But I feel like some of the events surrounding Ben in that story, right, like made this scene worse for me, knowing what's going to happen to him in Solitaire.
Oh, yeah.
So does that bring us on to episode 8?
It does.
Yes. The finale.
I love this.
Yeah. It's so good.
Very much.
From beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So my moment is the 7 montage. Taylor Swift 7 at the end-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like to see them all together, living their best lives in an environment where they can all be their authentic selves without hesitation is payoff for all of the sadness and strife that we've had to wade through this season.
Yeah.
Honorable mention again to the final scene, but it breaks my heart into 1,000 pieces. And so I'm going to go with positivity yet again and choose the 7 montage. And it's just so beautifully done. And they like did it was improv. They just like were hanging out, playing games and stuff. So that's like brings a whole nother like magical element to it. I just, I love it. And then my advice is a little sappy. It is to all of them to remember that you have each other and will love and support each other no matter what is going on in your individual lives. Lean on one another when you need to. Growing up is hard and confusing and kind of awful sometimes. So be there for each other and remind each other often of the love and support that you hold for one another.
Yeah, no, that's
beautiful.
Lovely advice.
Yeah.
And I love that montage.
Yeah.
Very much. And cried very much.
Yeah.
I also love that montage because it loses points for me because they shortened the bridge.
Yeah.
And the bridge of that is so Tara and Darcy coded that I'm like, why would you do that? It is the most Tara Darcy part of the entire song, and you shortened it. I've been meaning to tell you, I think your house is haunted. Your dad is always mad, and that must be why. I think you should come live with me, and we could be pirates, and you won't have to cry or hide in the closet. And just like a folk song, our love can be passed on. It's
that's literally
so perfect.
Yeah.
And I feel so strongly about this that I've memorized it just to be able to
bring it up in arguments like this.
Well, no, it's also an amazing song, and I love it, and I am obsessed with Taylor Swift. So like, it's just kind of in there. But so it loses some points for me just because like just of that little it's like a nitpick, but it's when you think about it, it's kind of a bigger issue. My Heartstopper moment, I refused to choose. And so I wrote the entire episode, period. Okay, although like if you're like forcing me to choose, I think it would probably be when Darcy arrives to Nick's house and they just all pull her into the hug. That moment, or again the end of the episode, but it makes me cry and I don't want to think about it, so we're gonna go with the happy parts. And my advice is to Imogen in 2 parts. Have you considered having a movie night with Nick wherein you watch Pirates of the Caribbean? Also, have you considered just kissing Sahar? And seeing how that goes. That's my advice to Imogen in this episode.
I think she considered it at prom for sure.
Oh, definitely. We've discussed this at length. I'm not going to go back into it. Our episode on Perfect is there for anyone to review.
I would be curious to know what else happened at prom after Nick and Charlie and the gang departed, because Sahar and Imogen were both still there.
Yeah.
And we don't know what we don't know.
Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. I'm excited to find out what happens with them. And with Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi also having their little moment at prom. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Their little smiles.
Mr. Farouk and his little side eye, like, we could go out again? Like, for real?
I have joked in the past that I want like a mini series that's just the like lives of the teachers, like everything that's going on with the teachers, but like behind the scenes of what's happening with the kids, just because I want more like of Ajayi's ridiculous pining for Farouk and saying, being like, just ask him out. You're adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love almost like a reverse of Heartstopper, where like instead of the teenagers being the main focus and the adults being background characters, it's like the adults are the main characters, but then like the teenagers still sometimes appear in the background. I would love that. very much. So when next time you are writing and pestering Alice, drop that in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the quote that I went for was, "I love your hair, your back, your crack, your thighs."
Hold up.
I'm paraphrasing.
Like, hang on a second. Some creative license taken there.
Yeah. But you know what I mean, right? Yeah, I love the tension in that, and I love that it gives us that cliffhanger, because I'm just really hoping we get a proper payoff from that in the next series. So
from the way you're both covering your mouths, I'm guessing we will.
But I was holding my breath through that section, and it comes off the back of an amazing discussion between them, and it was one of those moments where they really had the space to explore those emotions, to face act, and then we move into that, which is such a big stepping stone in their relationship. Even though they don't quite get there, we can see it. We can see the kind of cogs falling into place, can't we? And so that was a great moment. And so I think for me, this episode is getting a 4.9.
Oh
my gosh.
Come on, David.
My only reason for not giving it a 5, because it's a great episode. Structurally, I think it brings a lot of stuff together. There's some beautiful acting in it. Some of those moments that you've talked about, that montage at the house is beautiful, and all of the kind of everything that's wrapped up in that, and those ideas of chosen family and everything is brilliant. What just loses it for me is that we don't know where Darcy's going to stay that night, and that really frustrates me, that she's been kicked out of her house, and that she's she's been made homeless, and she just kind of disappears off into the night, and we could guess where she's going, but nobody's saying, right, Darcy, we have found you. You're going to be safe tonight. I just needed to hear that. That really, really frustrated me, and that just knocked it down.
I remember now we talked about this, didn't we? And I'd kind of just assumed that she'd be going to Tara's, because they'd mentioned a few times through the series, Tara's mentioned that, like, my mum was always happy to have you stay at ours. So I just assumed that that's what was happening. But I take your point that with the situation being so serious, it would be great to not have to assume. It would be great if they had made that really explicit and said, we're finding you somewhere safe. Like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I think because she leaves with Tara, I just did the assumption thing. And Tara being like, why didn't you call me? Well, my phone was dead. Well, why didn't you walk to my house? Well, I was embarrassed and I didn't want you to know. So, like, I think that was like Tara's opening of like, my house is always open. Like, but it was implying it, and having the like confirmation would have been nice. Yeah. You're right.
So to just jump back to the final scene of the episode really quick, can I just like take the knife that is that scene and twist it a little bit? Ashley, you know this because I screamed about it. So do you guys know what the last line of words that we hear in episode 8 is?
Is it the Messiah Project song?
It is. And the last line of the song that they cut on is the line, "I don't want this to end." Boom, hard cut to black, end of season 2.
Oh my God. I hadn't even...
Yes. So I'm going to read you some notes from my notes from episode 8.
Okay.
After Nick closes the door, the lyrics are, "I'm so scared that the moments we shared won't happen again. I don't want this to end." I'm sorry, I lied. No, that's not the end, right? And on, "I don't want this to end," Nick's face completely falls and he's so scared, and I am not okay. Why are you doing this to me, Heartstopper? Cut to Charlie walking home, looking back towards Nick's house. Charlie takes out his phone, smiles, looking at the picture of him and Nick, opens his Instagram app, which is already open to DMs and with Nick, and then he types, "I love you," and hovers his finger over send, and the lyrics to "You're So Pretty" continue to be perfect, but I am completely and entirely unwell. And then the episode ends on the goddamn lyrics, "Don't leave me." And I say, fuck you, everyone involved in making it. Especially Matt Biffa, who is the music supervisor. But yeah, so it ends with "Don't leave me." I don't want this to end. It's "Don't leave me." And then guess what they do? They leave us.
Yeah.
Okay, they leave us. I thought you were hinting that Nick and Charlie are going to break up, and I was going to be ill.
I mean, I also went on a whole thing about where Charlie's at mentally and how well that song fits with what must be Nick's thought process, like in hearing all of this. I went into a whole thing about that. But for me, it was just this show, like, it was like this meta level fuck you of like ending with the lines "Don't leave me," and then the series like hard cut to black, end of episode, end of season. And I'm like,
with the ...
Exactly.
Is he going to send the message? I really hope he doesn't. And I really hope they have that conversation face to face.
That was my hope as well.
But
I don't have enough tea in here to like actually do this. I
guess I focused more on the mental health of it all. Of Nick feeling
I think of it both ways, but
like, please don't leave me.
That too. But I don't want to think about that part of it right now.
Yeah. I think that didn't hit with me because you could see what Charlie was thinking, what Charlie was typing. So I kind of missed that association and missed what Nick was thinking.
Well, because I read the song as Nick's inner monologue.
Yeah.
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 It hurts. Don't think about it too much because you'll cry. As I did several times making my notes. But like I said, I was taking the knife and twisting it a bit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I warned
you. My score for the final episode was 10 out of 10. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a great way to sum up the whole series. And my quote, I've got two again. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be able to decide between them. I've got two. One of them is Tao to Nick when they're preparing for prom, and he says, "They're all idiots for assuming you're straight," and I'm including myself in that statement. I thought that was like a really nice conversation all in all, and just really showed the growth in Tao as an individual and in their friendship. And I just loved to see them getting closer. And my final one was Charlie to Nick when they were at prom, saying, like, we've been so obsessed with the idea of coming out. It's like we've forgotten why we wanted to do it in the first place. It's not for them. I want to go home and I want to just have like a nice time with our friends and the people we actually care about, and not see it as something we have to perform for others, or like something that other people have to see. So,
and it's like, yes, you finally got there. It took you all season, but we did it.
Yeah. Like, yes, come out, and yes, it'll be nice to have the relief of not having to hide, but also don't feel like just because you're out, you have to like perform for anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing. So we've made it all the way through the season.
We did it. We made it. Minimal tears.
Yeah.
So I guess the only other thing to do then is to look forward to season 3, isn't it?
Yes. I'm excited and nervous for season 3, but I'm not nervous about any changes they may make or feeling like they're not going to do justice. I'm nervous for myself because I think it's going to break me. But I have like a list of not comic spoiler things that I hope we get. Like just based on the sneak peek little bit we got. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with Darcy and like a possible gender exploration. I'm also looking forward to the summer fate, which I was pronouncing incorrectly until someone DM'd me and was like, that's not how you say it. So thank you to that person. I called it the feet the entire like discussion. Yeah. FETE. I was just like, oh, it's a feet. I don't know.
There's like a weird accent mark in there.
Don't have fates in America. No.
We don't call them that. It's like we would call it like a fair or a carnival.
Or carnival. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something that I think it's going to be full of adorableness and giggling and feet kicking. And I'm also looking forward to hopefully expanding Isaac's Ace journey and getting a little more look
Yes.
into what's going on with him. And then I have like a set of dreams, but let's just go, we'll tack that on in the end.
Okay.
I divided my things about season 3 into 3 categories.
Oh.
Things I'm excited for, things I am a bit scared of, but in an I will never be ready for this kind of way, not in an I'm worried about how they'll handle this kind of way. And things I'm not sure we will get, but that I want anyway.
Right.
So things that I'm excited for without spoiling anything. They tease in the sneak peek that Tori they kind of dive a bit more into Tori's like story, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, they're going to incorporate a bit of solitaire, possibly. Is that
seems like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. More things I'm excited for that I can't. But I'm really excited to see what they do with Darcy and like a potential gender storyline, like Ashley was saying. Really excited to see
something that's happened in the comics, or is that something that you think they might have added because of
Kizzy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like in those shots, I love that they're wearing a binder. You can see that in the shots, and the like mullet looks so fucking good.
I mean, they are pulling that mullet off. It takes something special to be able to pull that off, and Kizzy has it. So that's really where that all is coming from. Okay. And also like they start hinting at it with the suit and that whole thing. I'm excited to see what they do with Isaac moving forward, especially with his Ace storyline. And then the same thing, I'm really excited to see what they do with Imogen from so many angles. Like, I really do like I think that regardless of where they take it, she's really going to go on a journey of self-discovery. And whether that's just like, whether that is like a queer journey, whether the queer journey is kind of like a backseat to a bigger like journey of self-discovery and like learning. Whether the journey is just like questioning. And ultimately realizing that like she's not queer, but she is a fierce ally, and like because that is another part of the experience.
So just like whatever kind of journey she goes on, I'm really excited for, because I think that it's going to be excellent storytelling. Then there's also some things that I can't talk about that I'm excited about.
Just both mute.
No, it's okay. We talked about it on ours.
We talked about it in our coverage, and so everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because I've actually specifically mentioned like the exact moment in the comics that I am excited to see, so everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Can you tell us, is it a really happy moment? Or
yes, it is a very happy moment.
Okay, cool. Good to know that we're going to get some happy moments, because I imagine it's going to be a continuation of Charlie's storyline. Is going to get a little dark, isn't it?
Yeah. So the thing in that sneak peek, Kit says that like the kind of tone, like the first half is very heavy emotionally, and then the second half, the word he uses is steamy.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I will say,
I believe Joe used the word raunchy. And horny. I think he also used horny in a different interview. So things that I'm a bit scared of, but in an I will never be ready for this way, not in an I'm worried about how they'll handle this way, is all of the Charlie mental health stuff. It's like, so the way that I tell people is like, when I reread the comics, in theory, I could do it in less than a day. Except for the fact that when we get to the portion of the comics that encompasses what will be season 3, I have to slow down dramatically just for like self-care, because it gets really heavy, and I think that that's okay to say. And so
we're kind of expecting that, weren't we?
Yeah. So and again, I have full faith that they're going to handle it excellently, because it's handled really well in the comics, but I'm never going to be ready for it. No. And then things that I'm not sure that we're going to get, but I want more of, is Ben to actually be gone.
Yeah, I think he can,
because we've wrapped up his storyline twice.
Like, I hope his character continues to develop and continues to become a better person, so he doesn't hurt anyone else and himself and all of that jazz, but I don't need to see it. Like, I'm okay with just imagining that that's what happens, and that's fine.
And they have confirmed that he is not going to be in season 3, so
fab,
thank God. Okay.
There won't be time. We've got too much else to cover.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
I also want more of Cy, Christian, and Otis. I don't know how much more of them we're going to see, but I want more of them because they're great.
Of who?
Cy, Christian, and Otis. They're the rugby.
Yes, I liked your idea, actually, of them becoming more like active allies. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I agree.
The two, so I'm taking the Imogen one off because you covered it, but the two things that I wrote down for my like dreams / things that I want that I'm not sure we're going to get is something that I called for all through season 2 is I need to see Mr. Ajayi and Elle reunited. Because I know that he was there for her. We know that she also used the lunchroom as like a safe haven. They had opportunities galore in season 2, and it never happened. Give us that scene. I just think he would check on her. He would. But so I want that. And then I also want to see James getting a boyfriend in the background so that I can squeal and be happy about my little baby boy being happy.
So you reminded me of something else, because I had written this in like things I would have changed about season 2, but I'm gonna add it as something I want to see in season 3. I want more of Naomi and Felix.
Yes,
that was one of mine.
I especially Felix, because one of the biggest things that the show is lacking for me is disability representation. Yeah. And so I really want more Felix so that we can kind of fill that space. Also, like possibly like delving into Nick maybe having a learning disability, which was hinted at in season 2. I think either of those things would be great. Also, several of the characters are autistic coded, and I would love for them to codify that as well.
Yeah.
I could go on about my desire for more disability representation in the show. But we're going to do a whole episode about that. So
yeah. Because I think we would use learning difficulty for
the difficulties Nick's having.
Because you would say, would you say intellectual disability for, I think, what we would call a learning disability? Just so that we don't confuse the listeners. Yeah. But yeah, I think my thoughts for season 3 are quite succinct. I think, like you, I think Felix and Naomi, I'd love to see more of. I think and James as well. I think these characters were introduced and just didn't get a lot of screen time for me, and we didn't get a lot of time to get to know them. And Sahar as well, I'd love to see more of, and to give them a bit more identity and just get to know them a bit better. So that was one of my biggest hopes, because I just felt like they all got a bit underplayed in season 2. And I just want a proper payoff from the I Love You build up. Those are my only hopes from season 2, or for season 3. Sorry. I'm not sure how I feel about a horny Heartstopper. I mean, I get that that's going to be an important part of their relationship, and is an important part.
So I think it's not a spoiler to say that it's well done.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
I also I don't think
it is also covered in a way that's age appropriate for the target demographics of the show and the comics. I think that those are not spoilers, but are important to say.
Yeah.
I think that is important, because that's one of the things that we've discussed really, really loving about the show so far, is how it is so family friendly and how it is appropriate to recommend it to anyone of any age. And families and, people who may not have had that much experience with like LGBTQ plus stories, and that it's accessible for everyone.
And I don't think that will change.
Same.
Yeah. As long as the horny stuff doesn't change that, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Because we want to see them like, they're teenagers.
Growing and
it'd be nice to see their relationship developing, but like also it needs to still be appropriate for.
What I'm hoping is that it will be realistic. So it's like, okay, we're reaching a point in their relationship where certain things are going to transpire, but it's going to be approached in a way that is still appropriate for a show that is ostensibly classified as for children and families.
It's still going to be wholesome.
It's going to be wholesome.
And I think the way they've alluded to and talked about that kind of stuff so far has been it's felt very age appropriate for the age they are. Like, oh, I'd like to share a bed with you, but not like that. Like, don't worry.
It's not gonna suddenly turn into Euphoria.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. It's still gonna be Heartstopper. As long as it's still Heartstopper, we're still gonna love it, and we're still gonna carry on talking about it for many more hours to come, I am sure.
Yes.
Kate, have you got any thoughts for season 3? Or?
Just everything you guys have already just said, basically. I'm just I'm obviously looking forward to it, but also, like you guys have already mentioned, a little bit nervous because it's going to be heavier. It's going to be a bit darker in places, and it's going to be challenging, I'm sure. But I trust the team making the show so completely to make that balance of like the darker bits with the light. And if this is going to be the last season, which I hope it's not, I hope, because Alice has said, haven't they, that like they'd like one more to round it off fully. So I'm hopeful that they will get that, because if they don't, with the amount of support that this show has, then Netflix are doing something wrong. So I'm hopeful that they will get season 4, but maybe because they planned season 2 and 3 at the same time, that we might get a bit more like of an ending to this season. I'm kind of hoping for that as well, so that we're not left on such a cliffhanger, especially if we haven't found out by the end of the season whether season 4 is happening or not. Like I either need to know for sure that season 4 is coming, or I need season 3 to not end on a cliffhanger, so that even if season 4 doesn't come, I'm okay.
I feel confident that Alice will wrap it up with the intention of this will work if it's the end, but it also will work if we get a 4th season. So
yeah,
I'm sure they will. I'm sure.
So yeah, thanks for hanging out with us again.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having us. It's been great fun.
I'm excited to do it again for season 3.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yes. Kate and David, where can everyone find you all?
Yep. So we are on Instagram at Heartstopper Fan Podcast, on Facebook at Heartstopper Fan Podcast. And if you search for Heartstopper Fan Podcast, proper full-on gay crisis, you will find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts as well, I think. Yes, David's nodding at me. Yes, all of those places.
Yeah.
All right, well, that just about wraps us up for today. And right now, we're still not quite bi-weekly. We're working on it, but such is life. But this is still a podcast by 2 bisexuals, and we will be back soon.
If y'all want to follow us online, we are at YWeCast on all platforms. And if you like this, please consider rating and reviewing us, as it helps others find us.
And until next time, bye.
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 Bye.